I changed my life in 12 months after having my second baby, and all it took was self-care. It sounds simple, and it made me feel like supermom. Welcome to the front row with myself, Rowanna Mudley, and this is your Lemon and Honey series, where I talk about the lemon moment, the bitter moments, the sour moments, and what lessons I learned from it, the honey moment. I'll be here for 6 weeks on Tuesday and Thursday on YouTube discussing my personal stories of how I turned the lemons more sweet with honey. When I had my first child, life was a roller coaster. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to be a mom. It was the first time I was doing everything. And because it was my first baby, everybody wanted to say something to me or give me advice. And I didn't know what my body was going through. I didn't know that I had baby blues. I didn't know that breastfeeding would be enormously challenging. I didn't know any of it. I really thought that as soon as I got this baby out, I would just be the same that I was pre-pregnancy. But that wasn't the case. And I had a fat reality check and realized that everything changed. So self-care wasn't something that I was even thinking about. It wasn't even in my radar. I wasn't even thinking of myself at all. And then as months went by, I tried to get back into it. So I tried to get back into dancing. I tried to start exercising again, hoping that that will make things better for me. But I had zero motivation. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't know who this person was. I was like, where are you? Where's Rowie? Where's the old Rowie? Where's my body? Why is everything going towards the ground? So I just felt a world of emotions, not understanding how to deal with it. The environment that I was in wasn't right for me at the time as well. At the time, I was living with my mom-in-law. I knew that this was her house. She was the alpha woman of this house, and it was an adjustment. It took a while for my mom-in-law and I to understand each other. And if I really think about it, this woman has been in her house for more than like 40 years. And here I am coming in, also an alpha woman, also with my own values, also with my own way of doing things. And that's not to say that my mom-in-law was evil to me or bad to me or treated me badly. She was wonderful and she was there to support us in the time that we were living with her. It was just a different dynamic because here's a fully grown adult that's grown up a certain way that is now living with another adult who has grown up a different way. And I needed to get accustomed to them and they needed to get accustomed to me. So that kind of thing takes time. But in that period of us getting to know each other and finding ourselves, and it made it more complicated when I became a mom, because then I was a new mom in an environment that I was not supremely comfortable with or felt like I was at home. So self-care wasn't something that I thought of as something superly important for me to do. And even if I tried, like practicing dancing was a bit awkward in the beginning because I felt like I was in a stranger's house and where would I practice dancing without someone coming and looking at me? Like I would do it freely when I was at my parents' house, but this was something new that I needed to get used to. Of course, as time went by, I was very comfortable practicing my dancing and doing my yoga asanas. But in the beginning, it was so weird and I felt shy and I just felt awkward. My stress levels were high because I was a new mom, not sleeping enough. My baby wasn't sleeping every 2 hours like most babies. My baby was a snacker, so he would feed every 45 minutes and he needed to sleep with all the lights on. So being a new parent, you want to give everything to your child and you don't realize that you actually need to start parenting the baby. And then it was only later that the pediatrician said, no, you actually have to set down the rules and you have to put down the lights and the baby will get used to the fact that the lights go off at this time. And we needed to set like discipline and not feed the baby whenever the baby is crying and train the baby to eat every 2 hours as opposed to snacking. So it was all of those stresses that I needed to get used to. And the fact that breastfeeding was very, very challenging because I couldn't get the baby to latch and then the baby bit off my entire nipple. Like there was a piece on the floor and then I had to go to hospital to have it lasered back. It was just a roller coaster. So you can understand why self-care was not even something that I thought of as important. As time went by, because I wasn't taking care of my self-care, my stress levels were through the roof. And that meant that I was extremely snappy. I was not someone that you could have a great conversation with because I would get angry very easily. And I just felt like I was not in my body and I didn't feel like myself. I had more low moments than I had high moments, or I thought I had more moments than I had high moments. I wasn't focusing on all of the blessings that I had around me, all of the support system that I had around me, all the people that loved me and just wanted to do things for me. I was just focusing on the bad things that I was feeling and magnifying it unrealistically. And that's purely because I really didn't focus on my self-care. A few years later, we decided to move out of my mom-in-law's home. And then I started to feel like, hey, this is a space that I can call my own and I could make it my own. And I started to find comfort in that. And the noise that I felt calmed down because I was setting my own rules. I was doing things at my own pace. And I remember sitting one day and thinking, even though I've moved out and I can make this my own, I still don't feel good. I still don't feel happy. I don't feel like everything is working for me. And I got sick and tired of feeling that way. I used to be someone that would watch TV until 2, 3 in the morning because I was just not feeling good about myself. And then I wouldn't be able to wake up early and I would drag myself in the morning to sort things out in the morning. And I was just not a great person because I was not being the best version of myself. And then one day I was sitting in the dark, just in my feelings, and I came across a video, The Universe Has Your Back, by Gabby Bernstein. And that's the video that changed my life. It was the thing that I needed to watch at that given time. And it's the thing that made me realize this is who I want to be. I want to be the best, highest, truest version of myself. And if I want to do that, I need to put in the work. And I started what I now call the wake up routine, not a morning routine, a wake up routine. Because yes, I did realize through doing this practice that me doing my rituals or my routine is more preferred in the morning for me because that's what works for me. I didn't know that when I started because I would always say, I'm not a morning person. I sleep late at night. And I was proud of that fact. But after I started doing the wake up routine, where while I was brushing my teeth, I would look in the mirror and say, you are beautiful. You are stunning. Your body is beautiful the way that it is after having a baby. And you have gone through so much to be who you are right now in this moment in time. And things like that to just feed myself more positivity. I would listen to more motivational videos as opposed to watching TV. So I started to saturate my mind with content that was either inspirational, motivational, about routines and self-care, about the things that I loved like dancing. And I just became obsessive about being in that space. Even when I was at work, I would listen to motivational talks on my headphones. And slowly that kind of became my way of thinking. I started to find the old Roanna again. And that felt amazing because I started to remember what I felt like before I had kids. And I started to feel better about myself. So slowly I started increasing the things that I wanted to do for myself. I knew that every week I needed to do some sort of self-care for myself, whether it was a hair mask or a face mask, whether it was a dance session, or whether it was not even a dance session, but just listening to my favorite Bharatanatyam song, because that's the thing that brought me joy. And slowly, as the days went by, I added more and more things that I loved for myself to the routine. And as time went by, I started to find myself again. And then I started to like myself again and appreciate all of the things that were around me. I had been so blinded and not looked at what I had around me, and I was focusing more on the negative and I was focusing more on the problems than realizing I have so much. And I started to write down all the things that I'm grateful for, even if it was the smallest thing, like I woke up earlier today and I slept on time, or if I did it for a week, I would be like, I was consistent this week. And I would continue to read my wins in the book and feel more accomplished with myself until I realized, hey, I actually like being a morning person. I don't want to be sleeping very late and having a haphazard sleeping schedule. And I wanted to be more disciplined with that. because I had a lack of discipline in my sleep, it affected everything else. It was a ripple effect for everything else. I wasn't the most punctual person. I wasn't the most planned person, and I would just go with the flow. When I changed that behavior, I started to become more punctual. I started to become more planned. I started to feel like a better version of myself. I started with really small steps. When I drove to work, I would listen to devotional music because that would give me the right vibrational energies to start my day. And then when I would park just before going into the office, I would close my eyes for a minute and do some pranayama exercises, which is breathing in for 4 counts, holding your breath for 4 counts, and breathing out for 4 counts. And then I would go into the office, and that made me feel centered and more put together. After I had my second baby, things started to shift again. I lost myself again, but not in such a drastic way that I did the first time around. Here, it was more with awareness. I knew that I was going to take X amount of time to not focus on my self-care because I have a new baby, and I was going to not hate my body, hate myself, and not hate everything around me. And I was going to try and love myself more. And that worked so well because when you know better, you do better. Because I had the experience, I knew that I needed to behave in a certain way. When I started to get the baby blues, I knew something was wrong, and it was something that triggered a memory from the last time. And when I researched it, I realized that I had the baby blues, and I didn't know it the first time. I just thought I was being a bad mom. I just thought I was just ungrateful. What made it worse is that my mom spoke about how she was so normal and helping all the other moms and happy-go-lucky, and her body was great. That didn't help me. And the second time around, she narrated the same stories. But this time I had more awareness. I had the realization that while that was my mom's story, my story is my own, and I'm going through something that's different. The baby blues were rough. I would be crying for no reason whatsoever, and I would just be upset, and then I would be feeling down, and I would feel like everything is against me. Slowly, I had to keep reading articles and watching videos of other women that were talking about it. I just started to tell myself to push through because this too shall pass. And I started to remind myself that this journey is a love journey and I need to love myself. I started to do small things that would take care of my self-care. So I had a C-section, and it was very difficult to just move around in that first couple of weeks. And so my self-care was coming out of the shower and looking at myself in the mirror and saying, wow, you did the thing. And every day just reminding myself that it's going to feel better every day. You're going to get stronger every day. You're beautiful. And all of these things, and just feeding myself that energy. And as time passed, it started to feel better. And I took the time that I needed to get myself to feel better. Because I was more conscious of that and I had more awareness, I understood what my body was going through and what I needed to do for that time. And I didn't push myself to go into exercise very quickly and go into dancing very quickly. I took the time that I needed. And then as the days went by and I found more regular sleep patterns, I started to incorporate more self-care and other things into my routine. The hardest thing for me was returning back to the office after having my baby, because your body is still not normalized. I mean, they say it takes about 2 years for everything to come back to normal. And I was still breastfeeding at the time. Your body just doesn't feel like your own, so you don't know what to wear because nothing fits. Everybody has the expectation that you need to bounce back. Now what I do is, even if I have 5 minutes, I use the 5 minutes to do something for myself, whether it is a face mask, whether it is a meditation session. Usually I would take a meditation session over a face mask because my brain is working so quickly and there's 1,000 things happening at once. So a meditation session helps me so much. And I also think that meditation is so powerful to help you find resolutions in a very, very insane world. I know that I need to prioritize loving myself because if I prioritize loving myself, then the people that I'm around will see that and they will feed off that. But if I'm not prioritizing myself and my self-care, they will see that and they'll feed off that. I use my own example. When I was a child, I looked at my mom as this mom that was always giving. She did everything for us. She sacrificed everything for us, and we're very grateful for what she did for us. But she didn't focus on herself. I would see her meditating. That's probably the only thing that she did for herself. But she didn't do things for herself consciously. That is why it was difficult for me to find it within myself to take care of myself when I had children, because my mom didn't do it and she's a great mom. But if I do it, I'm not going to look like a great mom. I'm going to be a bad mom. So using her as a guide made me think that I am a terrible mom for focusing on myself and taking care of myself. But then I realized that it is so important, because it's such a trauma to have a mom that doesn't take care of herself and doesn't have the capacity to fuel her cup. And that's why she was possibly a military mom or someone that got upset very quickly, because she didn't fill her cup enough for her to feel like she could handle it. And those are the lessons I take from it, that I don't want to feel like I have nowhere to turn and I'm now snapping, because that's who I was becoming. And it felt familiar because it was something that my mom would do often when she was irritated and she couldn't handle it. It was a good lesson for me, because self-care is such a fundamental tool in you being a power woman in the workplace, in you being a phenomenal mom, in you being a loving and understanding wife, in you being the best version of yourself. And I think the more we talk about how important it is to take care of ourselves, the better we will be in the world, and we won't be projecting to other people, and we'll be treating other people better and with more love. So self-care is important for everyone, not just women. Everybody should take a moment to focus on themselves. You will make time for the things that are important to you, and self-care should be something that is on top of that list, especially if you are a working mom, because that job in itself is insane. So if you're a working mom feeling overwhelmed, I want you to know that if you just take 5 minutes to do something for yourself, it's going to make a difference, and it's going to make you a better mom, a better wife, a better worker, and just an overall more centered human being. You will feel stronger, and you will feel like you are actually super mom. You won't feel drained, and you won't feel like the world is against you. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you on the next episode of Lemon and Honey. Cheers.